Hey everyone, how are we doing? Welcome to the second round of the game show. We had a showing of this last week and the participation was so great that we went on a nationwide talent search. And we found two very talented contestants. Jordan and Asher are here to play today. Jordan's from Aurora, Colorado, and Asher is from Wheaton, Maryland. And we also are joined by some distinguished panelists. We have Tisha. Tisha, do you want to tell us about your qualifications as a film expert?
Well, if longevity counts, I've been in radio for a long time, and I've been a movie geek even longer. So pretty much my whole life. I've made it my life study.
And Kyle, what about you?
Well, I'm a writer by trade, but I've been a screenwriter. I made a short film for my senior project. I've written film criticism and just like it a lot, if that counts as a qualification.
Okay, yes, and I am Orrin, and I have published on film at Nostalgia Digest, Mental Floss, and a few other publications. And I also, I don't know. But we're gonna talk about classic films. We're gonna try to sell Jordan and Asher on various plots. Tisha, why don't you go first with your film that you want to sell in round one that you want to sell Jordan and Asher to see? Last time It was 2022 obscure films. This time it's going to be classic films.
All right. Mine is from 1946. It's Notorious, starring Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman, two of the most beautiful, sexy stars of their time. And they are in a really sexy, exciting plot in this film. They both play spies. Cary works for a government organization. He has been assigned to try to recruit Ingrid into infiltrating a group of Nazis. She is the daughter of a convicted Nazi. She carries around a lot of grief, and guilt and embarrassment. So she's willing to go along with this to see if she can break up this Nazi group. And what they don't plan on, though, is that these two fall in love just as she's getting into her assignment. She's totally into it, but Cary's character kind of doesn't want to show his cards. And he kind of keeps her at a distance. And you wonder, how far is she willing to go to infiltrate this group of Nazis? And how far is he willing to let her go? It's full of incredible shots. It's a beautifully shot film directed by Alfred Hitchcock. There's a famous scene at a fancy party where there's a crane shot, and the shot comes all the way down from showing this entire room full of glamorous people to a key that Ingrid is holding in her hand. It's a very famous camera shot, just one of many wonderful moments in this film. It's got intrigue and excitement and very sexy with these two stars. Back then there were rules about how long kisses could last in a scene, but there was no rule about how many times characters could kiss in a scene. So there's this one part where they're just nibbling and kissing each other over and over and over, and it's so sexy. And it didn't technically break the rules, but it certainly raised everybody's temperature. I won't tell you anything about the end of the film because I really hope you'll see it, but it's so exciting. And you're really wondering, how are they going to get out of this? That you're just kind of leaning toward the screen, waiting to see what happens next. It's just wonderfully sexy, a beautiful film, intriguing, pulls you right in and keeps you there. It's from 1946, Alfred Hitchcock's Notorious. Please see it.
All right. So one thing that I think that I've learned through playing this game is that you can't use too fancy words. Too fancy words. You said the word crane shot. So Jordan and Asher, do you know what a crane shot is?
Yeah.
Asher, you do. Okay, you might be too advanced for this game. Jordan?
I might have seen it, but I don't know it by word.
A crane shot.
But I thought it'd be a shot from above going down.
Oh, no. Oh, you got it. Okay. So
it's self-explanatory. Exactly.
No.
Like,
Don't
know what a crane is, and you said going down.
I thought it could be like a construction crane. Like, I don't know, maybe like they're digging up dirt and putting a camera there.
I mean, that's what I thought, but I thought it was just going down like a crane would.
Was Tisha intriguing you with this idea of them kissing a lot? Were you guys getting turned on by that? Were you guys like intrigued by it?
No comment.
Okay. All right. I'll go next. So I'm gonna go with Arsenic and Old Lace. It stars that same guy, Cary Grant. Have you guys heard of Cary Grant? he was like this suave English guy. And it's by Frank Capra, who was like the Steven Spielberg of his day. Frank Capra made It's a Wonderful Life and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. I don't know if you've seen the 2002 Adam Sandler movie, Mr. Deeds. Did you see that? Mr. Deeds is a remake of a 1936 film called Mr. Deeds Goes to Town, which Frank Capra made. So he's kind of got, like, his films actually even work well as Adam Sandler movies. He's very universal. This film is a little bit more out there. It's about a guy, Cary Grant, who wants to propose to his girlfriend. The problem isn't that he's good looking, because Cary Grant is a pretty good looking guy. The problem is that he has these two nutty aunts who like to poison hobos in their basement. That's so basically and it's not like Cary Grant's like, this is very bad that you're murdering people. It's more that you're murdering people and that makes me look bad to my fiance. And the two aunts, they just view it as a service to the world, that like they're taking hobos and putting them out of their misery. And it is actually a comedy. It's a screwball comedy. It's kind of funny. It's fun. It's actually a really good movie, but it's kind of an odd plot. What do you think? You think you'd want to see that one?
More likely that you said it was a comedy, because
Yeah.
that was not what I was thinking as you were talking.
Yeah. Well, I guess murders can make their ways into comedy. I don't know. It is. Yeah, but that is true. Asher, any thoughts on either of the first two movies?
I mean, the first one definitely sounded very intriguing. I don't know if I'd watch the second one though.
All right. Okay. Kyle, what do you got for us? Got any zany movies from the classic era?
Oh boy. It's not zany, but it's got plenty of sexiness and intrigue. I'm not going to talk down to you about who directed it. And frankly, I don't care who directed it. It's called Cat People. It's from 1942. And it is a classic of the black and white horror era. And if you're thinking that Cat People is some sort of metaphor or talking about, some lady who lives with 30 cats, you're completely wrong. It is about a lady who believes that she can transform into a panther when she's aroused to passion. For 1942, this is pretty risque stuff. Basically, quick rundown of the plot. This fashion designer lady gets picked up at the zoo by this guy. They fall in love, kind of. But she believes in this sort of ancient fable legend about the Eastern European village that she immigrated from, or her parents immigrated from, about sort of what happened to them after some Christian persecution. They started worshiping the devil, and she basically believes that she comes from a lineage of cat people. So despite these reservations, these guys get hitched, but she refuses to consummate the marriage because she truly believes that she would turn into a panther and kill some people. Anyways, push comes to shove. This guy wants to get laid. His wife doesn't want to lay him because she thinks she's going to turn into an animal. He falls in love with somebody else. This leads to some pretty obvious jealousy issues between this beautiful woman, Irina, who's the protagonist of the film, the sort of wacko one, and then the sort of more straight-laced American lady that this guy falls for in this affair. I'm not going to really spoil it for you, but I will say that the last line of the film is the guy saying, well, she never lied to us. So infer whatever you want from that. I think it's worth a definite watch, so I refuse to spoil it, but it's a really interesting movie. It was considered super pulpy, trashy garbage when it came out, but now it's considered significant by the Library of Congress, for whatever that means. I think it's fascinating, and I think it's worth a watch. And it's got a kick-ass remake by Paul Schrader that came out in the 80s. That is my time.
Okay. Reactions. Has anyone heard of the Cat? I actually have not heard of the Cat People movie. I saw the director did it Out of the Past, but
if you're a cinema geek, you will love Cat People. It is so shot. Beautiful film.
Wait, but Tisha, Kyle's your opponent. If you're gonna,
I know, I couldn't repress it. I tried to hold back.
Are you gonna recommend Arsenic and Old Lace too?
Well, I will say this. You use the term screwball comedy. Do our contestants know what screwball comedy is?
That's a good point. Jordan,
you're
what
not-
is a screwball comedy?
I'm not sure, but if I had to guess, it is making fun of your opponent by adding something very difficult for them to get over.
Making
But I
fun
don't
of your-
know.
Asher, any thoughts on what a screwball comedy is?
I'm not very sure on that one.
A screwball comedy is a comedy about, generally it's about classes. Like it's generally like rich people and poor people, or people who are street smart and people who might be more book smart. And it's a romantic comedy, so they like fall in love, or like one person could just be an airhead and one person could be with it. And they just kind of have all these like different, one has a different advantages that they might bring to the table. What would you say a screwball comedy is, Tisha?
I think it's kind of an exaggerated kind of comedy too. It's very broad. For instance, in Arsenic and Old Lace, Cary Grant makes all these faces. If he's surprised by something, it's definitely not subtle. You'll see him go. I mean, it's literally that broad. So if you're not,
I think that's a good reason to watch a movie. Like Cary Grant makes big faces, and like he doesn't make big faces in Notorious, right?
Not at all. He's
Okay.
Mr. Notorious. So if you're not into broad comedy, Arsenic and Old Lace might not be your bag, but it's still a very good comedy.
That's actually really interesting, since you said he was a spy, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So a spy to have that type of personality and give certain things away, is that it sounds like he would be doing that in front of his lover.
No, he is Mr. Smooth and very keeping himself enclosed and Notorious. He doesn't want to show what he feels about her. It's definitely two sides of the coin on Cary Grant in these films. He's very funny. I mean, he's very comedic in Arsenic and Old Lace, and very smooth and handsome and a bit mysterious in Notorious.
Have you ever heard of Alfred Hitchcock?
Everybody, Orrin wants people to have you guys watch a movie about poisoning hobos, and I want you to watch a cool Eastern European mystic horror film. I mean, come on, who's the psycho here, right? I think I've got this in the bag, Orrin. Let's just call it a day.
Okay. We can judge. All right, Jordan, what's your pick? What's your 1, 2, 3? Rank the 3 films on what you think is the best.
Oh, I didn't know we had to rank them. Okay. So I'm just gonna say the number 1 because I don't know number 2 or number 3 yet.
Okay.
But I'll say the reason why I'm gonna select this film was that one thing, at least, and this is personal preference, I'm not an expert or anything like that, but one thing that I search for in a film is there any realism that will draw me into it until I kind of forget that I'm sitting in the seat? So that's number 1. And then number 2 is, are they doing something good for humanity?
Well, poisoning hobos is, I mean, do we really need hobos, especially in like the 1930s? It was like the Depression. It was too many hobos around, you know?
So as you know, probably know already, I choose Tisha's as number 1 because I love the fact that that woman is going to betray her family, who is really horrible people. And she's gonna, be in trouble when she's going to date this spy, because I'm sure they're all gonna want to kill him too. So she's just risking it all. She's destroying her life in the best way possible for humanity. I love that. I'm gonna be honest, Orrin, yours got a little bit more points. I'm not saying it's in second place. So I'm saying a little bit more points when he said it was a comedy, because I think initially I would have cringed a little bit too much for that, but it's pretty interesting, and I think I would see it with my best friend. I think that would be a fun thing for us to see, because it just sounds ridiculous in a good way. And then for Kyle Cat People, originally when I heard it, I was thinking about that one cat musical that everyone thought was, bad, but I loved it because I thought it was a comedy, but then I learned later it wasn't a comedy, and the director got in trouble for it, and that's horrible. But it does add a very interesting type of, spot on, I guess. Some people may see it as a psychological thriller. She thinks she's going to turn into a panther, all this different stuff. So it's pretty interesting. You could introduce something similar to that right there.
Don't worry about the 2 to
I'm
3.
gonna pick Orrin's for a second.
Okay, do worry about it.
Because
That
my
sounds
best
great.
friend would scream and laugh with me during it. We like comedies, but I really like yours too, Kyle, and I'd be interested to see what happens with it. So I'd probably see all 3.
All right, Asher, what's your pick?
Oh, I actually think Kyle's would be my first pick.
What's up
It's
with
just,
Yeah,
I
go
mean,
ahead.
it sounded the most intriguing to me out of all of them. I mean, I've seen a lot of like, Nazi type movies and whatnot already, so it's hard to really get something that's different when in that genre. And then, I mean, that I'm not really a fan of like that kind of comedy. So
All right, are you guys ready for the Asher? Are you signed up for 1 round or 2 round? It's your.
I can do another round. Yeah, why not?
All right, Kyle, would you like to go first or second here?
Oh boy, how about I'll just go first this time.
Okay, go for it, Kyle.
All right, so this next film is from the 80s, kind of a little bit of a shift tonally here. We're going to talk about Amadeus, which came out in the early 80s. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but Amadeus Mozart was a big time composer. I'm pulling an Orrin move here and explaining very obvious things. Anyways, it's about Mozart, and it's this guy who basically becomes obsessed with Mozart. It's about his rival, basically, his musical rival. Is this guy Salieri, and he basically takes it as an affront to his own perceived brilliance that the way Mozart is portrayed in this film, he's basically like a child. He makes a lot of fart jokes. He's got a very insane pink wig. It looks like kind of a pink white afro. He's played amazingly. I forget the actor's name. I think he won an Oscar for it.
F.
But
Murray
it's basically,
Abraham.
yeah, that's right. He's amazing. The cast is amazing. I'm not going to talk any points about that, but I think thematically, I think it's really interesting picture of mediocrity, which you don't see a lot of in good like biopics, because instead of being about the genius, it's about the guy who's right next to the genius and what that feels like when you're trying to make it in the world. And you're smart enough to know how good the other guy is, but you're also smart enough to know that you're not as good and how crushing that is. So it's sort of like a portrait of failure mixed up with a sort of a biopic. It's really not as boring as that makes it seem in biopic, in case I need to explain it as biographical picture. But it's really a portrait of artistic failure, and also sort of does God give gifts to those who deserve them? And I don't have any religious convictions per se, but I think it's a really interesting question as an artist to reckon with being parallel to someone who's clearly so much better than you, and what that must be like to live in that world, that milieu of that time in Vienna. So I recommend heartily Amadeus from 1983, I want to say. Oscar winner.
Yes, it was a Best Picture winner. It wasn't that obscure. I don't know. These guys might have even heard of the film or seen it.
That's okay. If you've seen it, see it again.
It sounds familiar. So
yeah, it's
based on
definitely also one of the most
based on
pretty
a
films
play.
I've ever seen. It's one of those films that's and he's right. There are a lot of fart jokes and things like that. If
it's not a screwball comedy.
No, it's not a screwball comedy.
It's not played for laughs, but
it's a period piece, and it's very periodish. Like, that's definitely a very expensive film, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah, good costumes.
I'm gonna go with The Third Man. Have either of you heard of that? It's a film set in Vienna, a little bit after the war, and there's this guy named Holly Martins. I'm from Virginia, so I got some Virginia pride because the actor is Joseph Cotton, is a Virginian. Jordan, you're from Virginia, so you probably gotta root for this guy too. He goes to Vienna. Vienna's a city in Austria, which I'm guessing you probably know. And there's like and he's like, I'm here to see my old friend Harry Lime. And for the first half of the film, not a lot happens. There's like everyone's like, we don't know where he is. He's dead. Oh well. And he just kind of hangs around for a while. And there's like this really broody woman. She's like the love interest, but he never has a chance with her. But like, he try. I don't know. They kind of like dance around each other a little bit. And the reason is because she's really in love with the dead guy. But plot twist, and it's not that much of a plot twist. The dead guy is actually not really that dead. He's kind of alive. Like, and there's like this big reveal where he's like alive, and like he invites the protagonist to like go on this Ferris wheel. I don't know if you've ever seen this. This scene's a bit famous, and he talks about how he's kind of been hiding out and he's been diluting penicillin. That's his like big evil plot. It's a pretty good James Bondish kind of plot. He dilutes penicillin so that like a lot of people in hospitals die, but then he makes a lot more money because no one gets their full doses of penicillin. Pretty cool, huh? Pretty cool plan. I don't know. And then he says about like that in Italy they had a lot of wars, but they had a lot of wars and they created a lot of great art. And then in Switzerland they had a lot of peace, but all they did was the cuckoo clock. And that's a famous speech, so you might have heard that. And then like this line guy, the Holly Martin's guy decides to maybe do the right thing. I won't say if he does the right thing, but like he came to visit his friend, but his friend kind of has this evil thing going on. And I'll say there's a sewer chase. And also, yeah, I wouldn't say it's like a mystery movie because like the mystery's kind of solved. The guy who is dead is alive, but like the guy goes through a lot of phases. And then you're also wondering, it's kind of a dark movie. It's shady, but like they play this music over it. This music sounds like this. It's famous for the zither score. Can you hear it? So like it's this really dark movie and they're playing this pleasant zither music over it. So I would say that's the general gist of it. And it's like a really famous movie. Like the British Film Institute called it like the second best film of all time. And like when Roger Ebert rebooted his show, he highlighted this thing in his first episode. It's a very, very well-liked movie. All right, you're up, Tisha.
All right. I'm reaching back to 1955 for a film called Marty, starring Ernest Borgnine. Are either of you familiar with Ernest Borgnine at all?
He actually was on Home Improvement every once in a while.
Okay, well, if you're not familiar with him, I will tell you that he was a kind of built like a cement block, and he had a very intense face, looked a bit like a bulldog. This is not a handsome man, but he's the leading man in this romantic drama called Marty. He plays a middle-aged Italian butcher who still lives at home with mom. He's never married, and he's kind of given up on love. But he finds himself with his best buddy at a neighborhood literal ballroom where you could go and just dance and hopefully meet other singles. None of the girls are paying any attention to him because he's not handsome. He's used to this. He's really kind of given up, but he's there as a favor to a friend. He meets a young woman also who's a little older than the rest of the girls. She's a bit plain, but she's very sweet. They, through a series of circumstances that are kind of sad, but they meet at this dance and sparks begin to fly between them. And they're both excited about this. They go home. Marty tells his mom. She goes home and tells her mom and dad, I think I've met somebody. This is great. But the way that their loved ones react is interesting. When Marty starts dating this girl, his mom realizes, what if he marries her? And what if he leaves me? I'll be alone. So his mom does what she can and kind of plants seeds of doubt in his mind. His best buddy also doesn't want to be left. He plants some seeds of doubt. She has doubts on her side too. And just when you think that this great, lovable guy, Marty, is going to find happiness, you wonder if he's going to get it in his own way and blow it. And it's a very touching movie. I think even now it says a lot about what it's like to be single and to be out there trying to meet somebody. And it was such an endearing film, and not in a trying to win you over sweet kind of way. It just is. And it went on to be Best Picture of 1955. And I highly recommend it. Give it a try. Even if you think you're not into romance movies, it's not a drippy romance movie. It's just about two nice people who meet.
But to clarify, your selling point is it's two ugly people who meet. Because you say neither of them are good looking.
would say they're two really average people. I don't think Ernest
Average,
Borgnine
yeah.
is really ugly. I just think they're two really average people. These aren't two pretty people meeting, you know, it's
Yeah.
not a Hallmark movie.
All right, you have any questions for the panel, Jordan or Asher?
I don't think I have any questions.
Okay, you're playing hardball, aren't you, Jordan?
No, I literally have no questions.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any questions either.
Okay, I guess we did our
They-
job right. Okay,
Everyone's
so
really good at describing the movies. That's why I don't have any questions.
okay. All right, so which one of you wants to go for Asher, you can go first. What's your pick? Which one of us wins the point here?
I mean, it's difficult because, you know, like I like the idea of like, you know, being that person who's like the sidekick who's always with someone who's better and like hearing their point of view because it can be very relatable. And then at the same time, I also like movies like what Tisha was talking about, where you have like it can be a very emotional movie and like, you know, you're not sure what to expect with it. So it's really hard to pick.
You got one more. Why don't you get one more bonus question for Kyle and?
Well, I don't know what to ask. Like, I mean, it's just this.
I think silence is bad for video YouTube content, so someone's got to
Yeah.
say something. Jordan,
I
what do you
mean-
think?
I really loved all of them because I think every film, it just perfectly describes the era that it's from. So with Kyle's, I really like the 80s and the music aspect, since the 80s was such a critical time for music. And I really like the psychological essence of that second chair, knowing that they're not good enough, but not knowing how to get better, basically, because it's just raw talent. It's just something that's out there. And I really love the shady music that you shared. It really helped to kind of show the comedy aspect of this film that seems pretty dark. And then for Tisha, this is actually, it can be a concern in, you know, for people in their everyday life to go through something like this, but it's really nice to see a happy ending in that sense. And then I like the extra part that's added where the mother is trying to stop her son from going away. So I'm like wondering if she had an impact on who he was as a person, and maybe he wasn't as unattractive as he thought he was. So with that being said, I love Kyle's. Kyle's is my favorite pick. I love that. I love 80s, like my favorite decade for music. And that's something that I've also resonated with, is being good at something, but not being as good as the other person and not being able to really get there. So
That's a watch. Definitely give it a check out. It's worth it.
Can you help sell The Third Man for me, Tisha? Like, what would you say about what's great about it?
You know, I really can't because I've never seen it from beginning to end. I've only seen parts of it.
Oh,
I can't help you sell it. I'm sorry. I wish I could. I know it's a very famous film and very well thought of. I just can't help you sell it.
I see.
I will.
Asher,
I mean,
can you help make your decision?
I mean, yeah, like I mean, with Orrin's movie, it's hard to like enjoy, for me to enjoy a movie where like he sounds like the bad guy, you know, it's like cutting the penicillin, causing people to die. It's the kind of movie where you want that person to have like something bad happen to him and get caught or like have consequences to it. And it doesn't sound like there are any consequences to it, and then he gets away with it.
Oh, I didn't say that. I was just saying I was saying that it's more about the hero. I guess, you know, he has to decide whether to turn on his friend.
Yeah, but yeah, I think I might have to go with cows again though.
Okay.
to me, one thing about Amadeus is that it is a film of its time in that, and I may be wrong because what year did it come out, Kyle? What year was
I think
Amadeus?
83, something. Yeah.
Okay.
It was
All
the
right.
best picture winner for
Okay.
Because
And
it
to me-
also like, I mean, it sounds familiar, like something that I've heard of before. Maybe not that specific one, but something similar. And I think I
84.
might have even stuck it on like a list to watch at some point. So
It's
To me,
it
one
doesn't
of
yeah,
Go ahead.
it doesn't feel dated, but it feels very watchable. It's a little bit of it's got a popcorn movie element to it, but I think that there's a lot more psychological depths to it than that might sound like to you. But yeah, I think it's absolutely worth a watch, especially for any aspiring artistic types or successful artistic types. I think it really plumbs the depths of what that can kind of look like for people, in my opinion. And
When
thank you
I'm
so
sorry.
much, Orrin, for just basically ceding that round to me. It's very kind of you and gentlemanly.
Absolutely. Well, okay, let's do the final round. We don't know, is Asher doing the final round with us or the,
I mean, I guess I'm ready here. I may as well stick it
all
out.
right.
I like Asher's enthusiasm.
Well, Asher was a bit of a last minute fill-in, but yes, I think we're pulling him in. The question is whether we can pull all the viewers in on YouTube. Who knows? Okay. I mean, I was actually trying to play to like think of some bizarre plots. So like, why don't you go first, Tisha? I'll go second.
I'm going to go with a plot that isn't seen as much these days, except on TV. We have some modern day Westerns like Yellowstone, but in the movies, they're not seen as so much lately. This is a film from, is it 1939? 1939, maybe Hollywood's greatest year for classic films. So many great ones came out then, and one of them was Stagecoach, and it stars John Wayne. If you're familiar with John Wayne at all, it might be from seeing him in the movie True Grit, where he was an older man. In this, he is young and handsome and sexy, and he plays a condemned outlaw who is on a stagecoach with a group of other people. He is being transported back to prison, and he is a condemned man. But also on that stagecoach, there's Claire Trevor, who is a hooker who was driven out of the last town that she was in. There is a doctor who has ruined his career because he's an alcoholic. There's John Carradine, who is a kind of a swarthy gambler. And there's some other people on the stagecoach as well. So you'll learn a little bit about each one of them as they're making their way across the desert in the wild, wild west. It's a very dangerous situation to be in. Their stagecoach is attacked by a tribe of Indians at one point, a very exciting scene. One of the women on the stagecoach is very pregnant. They're coming under gunfire. It's very dangerous. They make their way to a way station. John Wayne is falling in love with the hooker, who he doesn't know is a prostitute. And some of the tropes or stereotypes from old westerns, like the hooker with a heart of gold, and maybe the drunken doctor who rises to the occasion at a dramatic moment and kind of saves the day. Those weren't cliches back then. They were new. This film introduced a lot of those things, and it has moments that are very sentimental, moments that are funny, moments that are very exciting. There's an incredible stunt where a man leaps from the stagecoach onto the back of the thundering horses. He falls between them. The stagecoach passes over him at full speed, and that stunt man lived to tell the tale. It's probably one of the most famous stunts in movie history, and it happened in this one. And so to me, it's one of those films that has it all: romance and excitement, and you wonder how things are going to work out. Is there going to be a happy ending? How can it be? And it keeps you wondering. And again, Stagecoach, I highly recommend it.
Well, to add to that, Stagecoach was actually, I think, the first film that was shot in Monument Valley. It was the first, I believe it was John Ford's first Western. So John Ford pretty much did almost every famous Western you've ever heard of. He did The Searchers, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, How the West Was Won. And he was already an Oscar-winning director for The Informant, but he kind of was like, I'd like to make a Western. Let me try at this. And his visions were always too expensive. So he found Monument Valley, which is also a special place for the Native American community. And the John Carradine she mentioned is the father of the guy who was in Kung Fu. I don't know if you ever heard of that series. He's probably 2 or 3. There's a guy named David Carradine who's
The guy from Kill Bill, Orrin, come on.
yeah, the guy. No, he's the grandfather of the guy from Kill Bill.
Okay, but I'm saying that's the Carradine we all know.
Yeah, so like I'm
Yep.
2 generations removed. I'm an old fogey. I forgot about that guy. But yeah, no, it was definitely one of the, and that was also John Wayne's first opportunity to be in a Western. So it was definitely like the thing that started it all, you know?
Really made him a star. Yeah.
Yeah, and Claire Trevor too, and Thomas Mitchell won an Oscar for the drunk doctor role. So, all
Yeah,
right,
that's-
why don't you go next, Kyle? You go next, Kyle. Go for it.
Okay. This one might be a little bit, I don't know how much the plot is really going to help you with this, because it's kind of more of a mood piece. So if you kind of like things that move pretty linearly from A to B, then this might not be the flick for you. But it's called Brazil. I think it came out maybe even the same year as Amadeus, but it's a very interesting sort of dystopian fantasy fable type movie. But something Jordan said was she likes a movie where somebody tries to do right in the world. And in my opinion, this is a really good example of that, because it's about a totally nobody clerk guy, basically mid-level functionary in this faceless bureaucratic structure that exists in, it's not even really the future. It's like an alternate reality, basically. But it's this, it takes a lot of influence from like 1984 and Kafka. It's very much like ambient dread kind of a thing. So it's not a great feel-good movie, but this guy is basically, there's basically a misprint on something that gets him involved in this. He's basically wrongly suspected of a crime that he didn't commit, because he's this totally vanilla milquetoast nobody person, but he gets embroiled into this sort of conspiracy basically, and ends up falling in with the sort of freedom fighter aspect of this society, this sort of underground sect of people that are trying to rise up against the machinations of the oppressive culture that they live in. So it's about a normal man trying to do right in a world gone insane, essentially. And it's very dreamlike. There's a lot of very hallucinatory images. It's directed by Terry Gilliam, who got his start with Monty Python. And so he's got a really great visual flair, and it's got an extremely unexpected supporting actor part from Robert De Niro. And I would put it in like maybe my top 5 performances, non-crime of any Robert De Niro movie. He plays a garbage man who's also sort of caught up in the system and trying to fight against it. And you can take that as a metaphor however you want. The guy who has to deal with the waste of this society, just basically, I think literally at one point, a like whirlwind of papers, like papers him over like a mummy. Anyways, it's a lot of great visuals, extremely dreamlike. Like I said, it's best read as an allegory or a fable, less about the plot. Extremely awesome movie visually. I would put my hat in the ring for Brazil.
I actually like Brazil a lot. It's my favorite movie from that director, and yeah, it's tough to want to try to argue against that. It's Stagecoach. It also, one little plot detail you missed was that the typewriter error is actually a bug, like a fly going into this typewriter, because even though it's futuristic, it's also archaic. And like there's like this this joke about like it's a bug.
Oh yeah, it's super funny. I forgot. I should mention it's also very funny.
It's like a bug
anyways.
in the system that
I mean, it has to be if Terry Gilliam is.
Yeah.
but it's like a
On it.
literal bug.
Right. A literal
There's
bug
all
in the
kinds
system.
of like little throwback jokes throughout all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
also the guy from Super Mario Brothers is in it. Bob Hoskins,
Yeah.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and all
Yeah.
kinds of little guys are in supporting performances. And the mom from Who's the Boss is in it, or the grandmother.
Yeah, sure. If you
Mona
say
from
so.
Who's
It's
the
been a while
Boss,
since I
Catherine
watched
Hammond is in it. There's a lot of, it's a really good cast.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do a film called They Shoot Horses, Don't They? I think I'm gonna lose on this, but I'm gonna just challenge myself to try to make this sound appealing to you. This is a film from 1969. Have you ever? And it's about a dance marathon in the Great Depression. And I don't mean like this was like Dancing with the Stars. Wait, what are you laughing for, Jordan?
I didn't think you were gonna say that. That was the last thing that you were gonna say.
A dance marathon in the Great Depression? Well,
Yes.
it's not like
not-
Dancing with the
I'm
Stars.
just-
It's
I'm
not like
laughing
they
at
were
them
dancing.
shock, That's all. That's all.
Say that again?
I mean, when you say Dancing Marathon, I do not think Dancing with the Stars at all.
No. This was in the Great Depression, people were really hungry. And so for like pocket change, they would like dance for like 18 hours a day. And then people would pay for it. And then there would be a grand prize for the person who stayed on their feet the longest. And so it's like, so there's a guy, so there's a woman named, she's played by Jane Fonda. Have you heard from her? She did a bunch of exercise videos. Do you guys know Jane Fonda?
I might.
He was in Monster-in-Law, right? With
Yeah.
Jennifer Lopez.
But Monster-in-Law was not like the high point of her career, but yes, that is true. She was a.
Disagree.
I
Hard
might know.
disagree.
Okay, Fonda.
So she is a person who is she's a person who really is very sad. She's actually recently tried to commit suicide because it's the Great Depression. But they find a partner for her, and she decides that she's got nothing better to do, so she's going to do this dance contest forever and ever. And it has all these great actors like Bruce Stern. I don't know if you know of him. Did you see Nebraska or Django Unchained? He's like the guy who says, "You got sand in your eyes, Django." He's a very good character actor. Red Buttons, Oscar-winning actor Red Buttons, who was also like a comedian, a Borscht Belt. He's like a Billy Crystal from the 40s, 50s type. Gig Young is in the movie. He's the MC. He goes yowza, yowza, yowza. That's his phrase, yowza. So I guess if you want a guy with a good catchphrase. And it's basically like these people just in the middle of the Great Depression. And there's all this little drama, like they're switching partners. At one point, someone might or might not sleep with the MC, the guy who, it's definitely a really good period piece. It was nominated for a BAFTA and a Golden Globe, not an Oscar, but it was nominated for a bunch of stuff at the Oscars. It even won Best Supporting Actor. Did you guys see Blazing Saddles? You didn't see Blazing Saddles? Because it seems like most people who aren't classical film buffs have seen Blazing Saddles.
I
This
haven't seen it.
From Blazing Saddles.
I was really interested in this film because the guy who plays the MC, he was cast for Blazing Saddles, and he collapsed on the set of the first day and almost died because of like alcohol poisoning. And then 3 years after that, he shot his wife and then himself on a morning in which no one like saw it coming. It was very friendly, and it's like one of the great unsolved mysteries of Hollywood. And he's the only Oscar-winning actor, as far as I know, to commit murder. It could be possible that like Meryl Streep had a shooting rampage that no one knows about, but as far as I know, this guy was a very interesting character, and he won an Oscar for this movie. So he has a really good performance. So like the acting is very good. It's just a very good period piece. It's definitely kind of sad, but it's also a film with a lot of activity, you can say. And the film is called They Shoot Horses, Don't They? I actually read the book. I saw the movie. I still don't know why they called it that, but you could have a lot of fun trying to figure out why they call it They Shoot Horses, Don't They? Because it's an interesting title.
I think if I tried to watch that film, I would want someone to shoot me and put me out of my misery. Because it's
Oh,
yeah.
that's not a ringing endorsement.
There you go, Tish.
All right. What are your thoughts, guys? Are you writing things down like you're writing pros and cons, Jordan, or something? Because
I'm just writing notes to keep up with all of y'all, so I can't.
Oh, I hear ya.
Details. Yeah.
She's playing words with friends, Orrin. It's fine.
All right. What are your thoughts, Asher?
I mean, I'm still a bit unclear on what that on yours or with like what the actual plot is like, other than there being a dance marathon and some of the nuances.
I think it's about a woman trying to hold on to one last piece of hope because she had a suit. It's not really that dreary or dark. She has a dance partner who is like kind of uplifting her, and there's a theme with like a wedding where they try to get married for money, like but I think would say it's about a woman trying to hold on to one last piece of hope. It might be a little bit like equivalent to Glengarry Glen Ross, where it says a little bit about society not being a you can't win game for the. Have you heard of Glengarry Glen Ross? it's that play where this is the fun. This is the challenge with people who aren't the film people. It's like, okay, you can't compare it to another film. So it's kind of an indictment about how, you can't win in maybe like American capitalistic society. Maybe you can, but it's hard. It's, Okay, as we know, silence is bad for YouTube videos, so someone has to talk and say something interesting.
I think I might have to go with Tisha's on this one.
All right, so
Kyle
Tisha,
almost won me over when you started mentioning like Terry Gilliam doing some work on it and whatnot, because I've enjoyed his work and he's one of the few people I actually know. But I mean, I feel like Tisha's has like the most in terms of an extensive plot with a lot of different characters and whatnot that would keep my attention.
You mentioned earlier that you like films that are different, and Brazil certainly is. Like you said,
Yeah.
it's a real visual feast. Definitely different. It was a labor of love. You can tell a lot. Every shot he put a lot of thought into. Here I am pitching for the other film, but I do think you'd enjoy
Well,
it.
but in Stagecoach, you get to see a guy almost die on screen. So, you get to be reminded of how they used to make movies before Hollywood got its grubby mitts all over everything with their regulations about safety.
well, Stagecoach is
The probably
pretty tame. It has an action scene, but as John Ford got later on in his career, then he got better at doing action scenes. So it's not. I wouldn't watch it for the action scene, I don't think, but it's
No,
definitely more of a
it's
character
It's
thing.
good aside from that. I just think it's an interesting piece of trivia.
Mhm.
All right,
Yeah.
Jordan, what about you?
This is so hard.
It is, yes.
This is probably the hardest round. I don't know if this was your favorite movie for each contestant out of this.
Oh no. I was trying to do things that were
this final round really earn this win, but
I was trying to do things that were bizarre and interesting to sort of get interesting reactions from you to be like, oh, this is a movie. So I really do like the movie, but I probably would, I don't know. Yeah.
I would say that Stagecoach is probably my favorite Western. Western is far from my favorite genre, but I do think that Stagecoach is just such an entertaining film in every way that it's probably my favorite.
I would probably say Magnificent Seven is my favorite,
That's
or
A good choice. I only came onto that one recently.
My
But then-
Darling Clementine I watched recently.
Yeah.
Did Jordan duck out rather than picking one?
I love remote because I had to cough and I had to.
Oh, I was wondering if Jordan was like, this is too hard. I can't. I'm buckling
It
under
is
the
way.
pressure.
It's actually way too hard for me.
It is hard.
Okay, knowing that a person almost died on screen, that would make me really cringe. So I don't know. I have to like think about it for a while before seeing it, but it sounds really interesting otherwise. So you said that Brazil, that is related to Monty Python and the Holy Grail, has the same director, or is it a different movie?
It was one of the actors from that troupe of guys. And then he went on to become a pretty renowned director in his own right. He's done a bunch of stuff in the last like 40
Didn't
years.
he do a bunch of like the
The animation. Yeah.
animation for Monty Python's Flying Circus, the TV show?
Yeah, and he also did
Like,
a lot of the set
and he pushed
direction,
them.
and he was very interested in the visuals. Most of his
Yeah.
movies are very visually interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he pushed the bar on like the animation, like the giant foot stomping down, and
That was him.
The animations were some of my favorite moments on Monty Python. I
I
just
wonder
love
if I
Yeah.
should just they shoot horses, don't they, out of the running, Jordan? Or
This is a really hard thing. Because they're all pretty equal to me.
oh, okay.
To be honest, they're all pretty equal to me because, and I do want to apologize for laughing earlier at people dancing in the Great Depression. I don't think that's funny, but
Well, that
I
was the
laugh
point of-
whenever something is shocking to me. Like that was the last thing I thought you were gonna say, so I just was laughing.
That was that was what I was going for this video, was to try to pick films that were like, that was like a little bit offbeat, you know?
Right. Yeah, I think that's pretty interesting too, to kind of give a feel of that time, because we always talk about the Great Depression, the Great Depression. Like you hear it everywhere in terms of history and within academia, but no one can really truly understand what that is without going into it, which is why film is nice, because you can really get a little pinch of what it may have been like, especially if you have a good director, good actors, and that stuff like that. So although this, I know a bunch of people said they probably wouldn't want to watch this again because it's like really, maybe just depressing, because I guess it seems like it's realistic. Orrin, I'm gonna choose yours because
Oh my God,
this
yeah.
has that realistic, the
gosh.
realistic element of that. I think I can definitely learn something.
Wow.
Wow. Well, as you know, the third round and Jordan's pick, it counts like 6 times every other one's pick. So no. Okay, well, Jordan and Asher, thank you so much for attending. I know we've talked about this. I know Jordan is hosting a party this Monday, so I don't know if you are, but are you hosting a party this Monday? I don't know.
No, we're not. We are going to a local firehouse to do
Oh,
some
that's it.
catering. And Orrin, just so you know, it's from like 9 a.m. until 12, but Julie should have sent you the address and all of that, but we're going to make Valentine's letters for foster kids. So we did that like 3 years ago, and we got some pretty good feedback of it. So that's, yep. So you just hand make all the cards, and you don't know who it's going to, of course, due to privacy stuff, but
That's
those two.
a wild thing to do. That's great.
Tisha,
Yeah.
do you want to plug your radio station? Tisha broadcasts in Iowa, right?
Nope, Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
It's a community radio station that serves the Chickaw Nation of First American. I'm not native. I'm just lucky enough to work for them. They're a great employer. We play everything from the blues to classic rock, country, current pop, all of that mixed together in the same hour. And then we have syndicated programs to talk about everything from money to science to clean, green living. It's very diverse programming, nonprofit. We're kind of a small town version of NPR.
And
we're
of course, films you talk about, right?
Sometimes I tend to geek out too much and it takes up too much time, but
Kyle, do you want to tell us about your book really quick?
Sure. I just self-published a novel on Amazon, which sucks because you have to have a Kindle to be able to buy it. You can buy it just as an act of charity if you don't have a Kindle, but I wouldn't hate you if you didn't do that. Anyways, it's called Mute City. It's a neo-noir. It's a mystery story set in Seattle, Washington, and that's all I got to plug.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Jordan and Asher, for playing, and thank you so much, Tisha and Kyle, for being our panelists. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you. Had a good time.
Nice to meet all of you.